Welcome to Chapter 1, The Essence of Psychology. In this video, we will cover the definition, historical roots, goals, perspectives, subfields, and research methods in psychology. The word psychology is derived from the Greek words psyche, meaning mind, soul, or spirit, and logos, meaning study or knowledge. Therefore, psychology is the study of the mind, soul, or spirit. A common definition is, psychology is the scientific study of human behavior and the underlying mental. The definition of psychology has three aspects: science, behavior, and mental processes. Science means using scientific methods and empirical data. Behavior refers to overt actions and reactions. Mental processes are the internal, covert activities of our minds, like thinking and feeling. Psychology has four main goals: description, explanation, prediction, and control. Description involves observing behavior and noting everything about it, answering questions like what is happening and under what circumstances does it seem to happen. The second goal is explanation, which seeks reasons for the observed behavior, leading to the formation of theories. The third goal is prediction, which determines what will likely happen in the future based on research and observation. The final goal is control, how behavior can be changed or modified from undesirable to desirable. Control is also used to check the effects of undesirable factors when examining relationships between behaviors, such as controlling socioeconomic status when studying intelligence and academic performance. Psychology began as a science in 1879 in Leipzig, Germany, with Wilhelm Wundt establishing a psychology laboratory. Wundt developed objective introspection to study mental experiences, earning him the title of Father of Modern Psychology. This marked psychology's emergence as an independent field. A school of thought is a systematized approach to explaining phenomena, like human behavior or mind. These approaches can be biological, environmental, or other perspectives, but all offer a general, systematized way of thinking about an issue. Structuralism, founded by Edward Titchener, was one of the early schools. It viewed psychology as studying the structure of the mind, focusing on finding the units or elements like sensations, images, and feelings through introspection. However, this approach was found to be too simplistic for dealing with the environment, leading to functionalism. Functionalism, founded by William James, viewed psychology as the study of the function of the mind. It focused on how the mind allows people to function, work, play, and adapt. Functionalists considered psychological processes to be adaptive and developed broader research methods beyond introspection. However, it was still considered simplistic to understand the complex human being, paving the way for Gestalt psychology. Gestalt psychology, founded by Max Wertheimer and colleagues, views psychology as the study of the whole mind. The term Gestalt means form, whole, or pattern. Gestalt psychologists held that the mind is not a combination of elements, but rather a result of a whole pattern of sensory activity. Essentially, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The three early schools focused on the human mind as an internal, hidden, and subjective experience. However, because this subjective experience couldn't be observed or measured scientifically, a new paradigm emerged, behaviorism, which focuses on studying behavior. Behaviorism, founded by John B. Watson, views psychology as the study of observable and measurable behaviors, excluding hidden mental processes. Behaviorism focused on conditioned responses as the building blocks of behavior, and believed that all behaviors are learned, not inherited. Learners were seen as passive and reactive, responding to environmental stimuli. The four schools discussed so far focused on conscious experiences. However, an opposition arose from a physician in Vienna who suggested that human functioning was explained by powerful forces not accessible to consciousness. This led to the emergence of the next school of thought, psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis, founded by Sigmund Freud, views psychology as the study of the unconscious part of the human mind. Freud observed that some physical illnesses in his patients didn't have medical causes, but non-physical or emotional ones. He referred to these illnesses as hysteria, which involved the conversion of emotional problems into bodily problems. Freud stressed that emotional traumas from early childhood can be too threatening to be consciously remembered, becoming hidden in the unconscious, where they remain to affect later behavior. He likened conscious awareness to the tip of an iceberg, with the vast unconscious beneath the surface, containing hidden wishes, passions, and conflicts. The old schools of psychology, structuralism, functionalism, Gestalt, behaviorism, and psychoanalysis differ primarily in their object, goal, and method of study. Their objects included the conscious mind, unconscious mind, and overt behavior, while goals centered on analyzing the mind's components or observing environmental effects on behavior. Methods ranged from introspection and observation to clinical case studies. The early schools laid the groundwork for modern psychology, opening the door to multiple perspectives in explaining human behavior. Today, modern psychologists use several views: psychodynamic, behavioral, humanistic, cognitive, biological, and sociocultural. These perspectives reflect different questions and assumptions about human behavior and the mind's workings. The psychodynamic perspective, stemming from Freud's psychoanalysis, emphasizes the unconscious dynamics within the individual, such as inner forces and conflicts. It focuses on the influence of unconscious mental behavior, the role of childhood experiences, and intrapersonal conflict. Psychodynamists act as archaeologists of the mind, digging for unconscious motives. The behavioral perspective highlights the role of learning experiences and environmental factors, like rewards and punishments, in shaping and maintaining behavior. Often called the black box approach, behaviorists focus on environmental input and behavioral output, regarding the mind's internal processes as less useful for understanding human behavior. The humanistic perspective believes that human behavior is not solely determined by unconscious dynamics or the environment. It emphasizes the uniqueness of human beings, focusing on human values, subjective experiences, and the individual's free will. Its goal is to help people achieve their full potential or self-actualization. The cognitive perspective emphasizes what goes on in people's heads, concerning mental processes like reasoning, memory, language, and problem-solving. This perspective shows how thoughts and explanations affect actions, feelings, and choices. Techniques used include electrical recording of brain activity and radioactive tracing of metabolic activity in the nervous system. The biological perspective focuses on how bodily events, such as the functioning of the brain and various chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, affect behavior, feelings, and thoughts. It highlights the complex interaction between biology and behavior. This perspective also suggests that our genetic heritage can predispose us to certain behaviors, reflecting our evolutionary history. The sociocultural perspective emphasizes the social and cultural factors that affect human behavior. It posits that behavior cannot be understood without its sociocultural context. Social psychologists examine group dynamics and authority's influence, while cultural psychologists study how cultural rules and values shape people's development, behavior, and feelings. All these modern perspectives, psychodynamic, behavioral, humanistic, cognitive, biological, and sociocultural, contribute to understanding human behavior and mental processes, as shown in this diagram. The field of psychology is vast and includes numerous subfields or branches. These specializations apply psychological principles to different areas, reflecting the broad scope of human behavior and mental processes. We will now review some of these branches. Developmental psychology studies changes across the lifespan. Personality psychology focuses on enduring individual traits. Social psychology deals with social interactions and relationships. Cross-cultural psychology examines culture's role in behavior, and industrial psychology applies principles to increase organizational productivity. Other subfields include forensic psychology, which improves the legal system, educational psychology, which enhances the educational process, health psychology, which aids in preventing and treating physical illness, clinical psychology, which addresses psychological disorders, and counseling psychology, which helps with less severe problems. Moving on to research methods in psychology, we must first define key terms. The scientific method is the process of testing ideas through observations and analysis. A theory is a set of principles explaining observed facts. A hypothesis is a tentative proposition about the relationship between two or more variables. There are three major types of research methods: descriptive, correlational, and experimental. Descriptive research involves recording what is systematically observed, and it includes methods like naturalistic observation, case studies, and surveys. Naturalistic observation, in particular, studies subjects in their natural environment for a realistic picture of behavior. Case studies are descriptive techniques where an individual is studied in great detail, providing a tremendous amount of data. However, a disadvantage is that the results cannot necessarily be generalized to others. Surveys are descriptive research methods that collect data from a very large group of people, useful for obtaining information on private behaviors. A disadvantage is the need for a careful selection of a representative sample of the actual population. Correlational research measures the relationship between two or more variables. A variable is anything that can change. Correlation tells the relationship's strength and direction, but importantly, it does not prove causation. Experimental research is a method that allows researchers to study the cause and effect relationship between variables. It involves manipulating one or more factors, the independent variable, while holding all other factors constant and measuring the resulting dependent variable. Experiments involve randomly assigned experimental groups, where the experience is manipulated, and control groups, which serve as a baseline comparison. The advantage is discovering causes, but a disadvantage is that researcher and participant expectations can affect the results. Scientific research follows 5 major steps. Step 1 is defining the problem by noticing something attention-catching. Step 2 is formulating the hypothesis, which is an educated, testable guess about the observations. Step 3 is testing the hypothesis using appropriate methods and collecting data. Step 4 is drawing conclusions, where generalizations are made. Finally, Step 5 is reporting results, detailing the procedure, findings, and implications so others can learn from the research.